All right, let's dive right into a story that's about 2,500 years old but has this, well, this surprisingly modern sting to it. It's called the Simile of the Quail, and it gets right to the heart of this huge idea about freedom, what we cling to, and what our chains are really made of.
So, let me ask you something right off the bat. What if the most trivial, the most insignificant things that you hold on to, what if those are actually the things that are holding you back the most? Just let that sit with you for a second as we get into this.
So our story kicks off with a monk. His name is Udayi, and he's just sitting there meditating, and he has this massive wave of gratitude wash over him. He's thinking, wow, my life is so much better. The Buddhist teachings have saved us from so much junk. And he's not just thinking in vague terms. He has a very specific and kind of funny example in mind.
He's remembering how their whole eating situation evolved. See, at first, the monks ate multiple times a day. Pretty normal. But then the Buddhists suggested they give up the daytime meal. And they were pretty bummed about it. I mean, they loved that meal. But okay, they did it. Then he asked them to give up the evening meal too. Again, they weren't thrilled, but they let it go. And this new schedule, eating only in the morning, well, it led to some unexpected problems.
Because they only ate once in the morning, they had to go out for alms when it was pitch black outside. And this wasn't just a little inconvenient, it was genuinely dangerous. Guys were falling into swamps and open sewers, walking smack into thorn bushes, or even sleeping cows. They were running into criminals. This whole chaotic, dangerous situation is the perfect setup for Udayi's own personal story.
So there's our guy, Udayi, stumbling around in the dark for food. All of a sudden, a flash of lightning cracks across the sky and lights him up. A woman who's outside washing a pot just sees this shape and screams, "It's a damn goblin!" Not quite the friendly greeting he was probably hoping for. So he quickly tries to explain, "Sister, sister, I'm not a goblin, I'm just a monk waiting for alms." Her response, though, it was sharp.
And that's the punchline. She basically yells at him that it would be better to literally get his stomach sliced open than to be out there wandering around in the dark just for the sake of his belly. Ouch, right? For Udayi, though, this was a huge moment of clarity, and he tells this whole story to the Buddha, just feeling super grateful he doesn't have to deal with that anymore. But the Buddha, he hears this and takes the lesson to a whole other level.
So the Buddha listens, and then he just nails this fundamental human problem. He says that when he asks people to give up even a tiny, insignificant thing, they push back, they complain. They say he's being too strict. They refuse to let go, and that refusal, that deep attachment to something small, it becomes this powerful prison. And that's what leads us to the core metaphor of the whole story. He asks a really simple question. Imagine a small bird, a little quail, and it's tied down by just one single piece of old, rotten vine. I mean, to you or me, that bond looks pathetic, right? We could snap it in a second. But for the quail, is that bond weak? Or is it strong?
And the answer is kind of shocking. For that quail, the rotten vine isn't weak at all. The text calls it a heavy yoke, an unbreakable prison. Why? Because for the bird, that vine means it's trapped, that it could be injured or killed. The strength isn't in the vine itself. It's all about the quail's inability to break free. Then, the Buddha gives us the complete opposite image. Okay, now picture a massive royal elephant. Huge, powerful, trained for battle, and it's tied up with a thick, strong leather harness. So for this incredible animal, are those bonds weak or strong?
For the elephant, that strong harness is absolutely nothing. It's weak and feeble. All it has to do is give a little twist of its body and snap. The bonds break and it just walks away, totally free. It's the exact same principle, just working in reverse.
And this gets us to the key takeaway. The strength of our chains has almost nothing to do with the chains themselves. It's not about the thing, the habit, the possession. It's all about our own power or our own lack of power when we face those things. What is just a rotten vine to one person is an unbreakable prison to another. And here's where he applies it to our lives so brilliantly. He compares a poor man who has almost nothing, a broken down shack, a beat up couch, one pot, to a rich man who has everything. And you'd think the rich guy would be the one who's more trapped, right? But it's the opposite. The poor man is the one who's truly fettered.
He can't even imagine leaving his few possessions. The rich man, on the other hand, has the inner strength to see all his wealth as something he can just walk away from.
And here is the real kicker. Both men are having the exact same thought. They both look at the simple, peaceful life of a monk and think, man, that seems so pleasant. If only I could do that. But only one of them has actually built up the internal strength to break his bonds. It's not about what you have, it's about what has you.
So why would you give anything up? It's not about making yourself miserable. The teaching makes a distinction between two types of pleasure. You've got your regular, everyday, sensual pleasure, from taste, touch, sight, you know the drill. It's described as filthy and ordinary. But then there's this higher pleasure, the pleasure of renunciation, that deep, solid peace that comes from letting go. The goal is to trade a lower kind of pleasure for a much higher, more lasting one.
In this path of letting go, it keeps escalating. It moves from the physical world deep into the mind. So first, you go beyond simple pleasure, like giving up that meal. But then, it gets way more subtle. You learn to let go of just the mental chatter about it. After that, you learn to release even the intense joy or rapture that can come up in meditation. As great as that feels, it's still an attachment, so you go beyond it. And then you go beyond the calm bliss that comes after. It's this relentless process, letting go of finer and finer attachments until you're even asked to let go of the concept of nothingness itself.
And at every single one of these stages, no matter how peaceful or amazing it feels, the instruction is always the same. It's like a mantra, but this too is not enough. Give it up, go beyond it. It's just this constant, continuous process of releasing, always pushing deeper and deeper into real freedom.
So after mapping out this entire path, from giving up a bowl of food all the way to giving up the idea of nothingness, the Buddha turns back to Udayi with this final, massive challenge. He asks him, do you see any fetter, any chain at all, big or small, that I don't recommend you let go of? And the answer, of course, is a resounding no.
And that brings us right back to where we started. The story's over, but the question is left hanging in the air, and it's just as real for us today. So, the question for you is, what's the thing in your life that seems small, maybe even silly or rotten, but for you it's a heavy yoke? What's your trifling vine?